Hi everyone, so 4th of October, another week done. Let's run through this week and see what I got up to. So continuing on the workflow sessions, both of the teams I'm on, I'm actually doing a workflow session for both teams. Normally this would be confusing, but they're so distinct teams, it's actually quite easy to keep straight in my head. One of the teams is very fresh, very new, doesn't have a lot of things in place. And so it's actually relatively easy to think, okay, let's work with a team to create a process. And so that took place this week, and I also had a workflow session, one of probably the third workflow session now with the other team. This team is a little bit more solidified, so it has a lot of things in place already, but that actually makes it quite difficult because they've not had a delivery manager for years. Coming in and just seeing that there actually people are a little unhappy with some of the areas, or some of the areas are blocking things or making things less effective, or making the team less effective. So actually it's more difficult to understand that and break that apart. So we've had a few more sessions than I probably wanted to have, but they've all been useful sessions, and that continued this week, and I'm really getting under the hood now in terms of understanding what exactly is the issues with these different parts. Obviously it's a multidisciplinary team, so it's quite a large team, a lot of different things going on, little different parts of it. The initial just getting the workflow as a diagram was quite a task because of this sort of large spread of how the work flows, but it did end up in an amazing diagram, which we then used to then pick apart and see where we can make those improvements. So we continued with that this week. So really interesting stuff, really breaking things apart. And I also measured the team health, so hopefully part of this is going to feed into the team health and sort of improving the team health score, making sure the team's more effective, more happy, etc., etc. And those workflow sessions are really the main workflow sessions for both those teams that I'm working with. And that took up a lot of my thinking time. I also have the Mo coaching course that I'm coaching, which is once a week for this month, for a period of sort of 6 weeks. Every week I'm spending sort of 4 or 5 hours coaching with a group of new coachees. So it's really interesting to teach the new coachees, but also, as I'm sure you're aware, when you teach something you become better at it anyway. So it's actually helping me remember a lot of those coaching frameworks and remember a lot of how to apply coaching, and it's actually helping me use coaching more in my day-to-day as well. So it's been super beneficial both for obviously the team that I'm coaching, or the coachees that I'm coaching, but also for myself at my work, even at home, I could say. So that's been super useful, and again, that's taken up a lot of my thinking time. I recently added a drop-in time on my calendar so that anyone could drop in and have a chat with me about anything. And so one of the team members this morning dropped in just to have a chat about something. I think it's important to have that outlet for team members, that so it's sort of, if they have an issue, if they have something on their mind, they can get in touch, and they have a dedicated slot to get in touch if they want to have a quick one-to-one. And I think that's, again, it's just sort of like, it's like a steam valve, so it releases the steam before this thing sort of blows up. It's actually making it sound quite dramatic. It's not quite that dramatic, but there's potential for it to act as a steam valve to prevent things blowing up. So it certainly acts as a bit of a relief for people, and that's really, again, it's one of the things to help the team along, prevent things from escalating. And the other session that I had that's actually quite interesting is a estimation session. What are the types of tickets that we have for a particular discipline typically overrun? So sometimes you have a ticket of this nature which is going to take 60 days, and we run on a month, 4-week sprints. So clearly if a ticket's generally taking 60 days or sometimes taking 90 days, then we've got a bit of a problem. We've started to use estimation with these tickets, start to think, okay, how can we break these tickets down further? And one of the issues, of course, with estimation, I've probably mentioned this before, is that most people's experience of estimation is on time, not complexity, because there's two things involved in estimation, is time and complexity. Most people have experience of estimation in terms of time. Okay, so how long is it going to take? How many story points? Story point half a day? Okay, so it's going to take 10 days, is it? Okay, so most people's understanding of estimation comes from someone using estimation on them and then sort of making them feel bad or worse about not meeting the particular time that they've set. So as a result, next time to do estimation, they give themselves even longer. So actually with the aim you have is to be better at estimating, to actually have a good gauge of how long something's going to take. And what that results in, if you focus on time, is that your developers or whoever is doing this ticket, your designers, product designers, etc., they'll just add on extra time because they don't want to be in a position where actually they haven't finished it in time, and then you make them feel bad about not finishing in time, or you escalate it because they haven't finished in time. So my focus with estimation is on complexity of ticket. Can we break down that ticket any further? So then the aim is to have really simple tickets, within reason, obviously. So the system that I use is called Lunar Logic. Okay, so Lunar Logic is essentially has three options. So you can be either a size 1, and you can determine that size. It can just be the most simplest thing, basically. Too big or too complicated. So if it's too big, clearly it needs to be broken down into further size 1s. And if it's too complicated, clearly you need to do some research to break it down further, to understand the complexity of it. And then you can then either break it down further or have it as a 1. So I really like this. When I first heard about it, it felt like a bit of a gimmick, but actually what it does is it removes the temptation to look at time. It focuses entirely on complexity and allows you to break down the tickets without thinking about ridiculous things like, okay, is this the size of a watermelon? Is this the size of a pear? Is this the grape size, or is this a sort of an apple size? You just focus on whether it's as broken down as possible. Is it too big? Is it too complicated? And using these three options, you can really sort of look at a ticket and break it down as much as is logically possible. And so we did that with these tickets, and it was a good outcome. It's the second one of these sessions that we've done, and I'll rerun it again. It's something I'm trialing with this group, and I'm going to expand out to the other groups later. So that was really interesting to give that a try and see how it works. And it worked really well. So I'm going to put that in again, probably in a couple of weeks' time. And that was it for me this week. So a really interesting week. I hope you enjoyed listening. See you again next week.